Good afternoon, fellow Plex server owners. I've had a long morning. I've been trying to help Matt out. He's having trouble with hardware acceleration on his Synology DS920 Plus NAS, and I figured I'd spin up a quick container on my DS1520 Plus NAS because I used to run Plex there before moving to Unraid. And I went down a rabbit hole and I couldn't get the container to add to my, or the new server to add to my existing Plex account. And I kept looking at everything except for what I needed to look at to figure out my mistake. So right now I have 3 servers running. This Walker 63-DS1520 Plus is a brand new container spun up on my DS1520 Plus NAS, and I've added one small movie library to it of all public domain media. And Matt's issue is he doesn't have any hardware accelerated transcoding on his DS920 Plus since the last Plex update. So let's go here. This is the new version of Plex, the latest version. Let's go to DSM, well, not there. And let's show the container running. I have a bunch of containers, and we're only going to look at Plex PD. That's the new one that's running. So let's go into Portainer. Let's see, where do I want to be in Portainer? So the Plex PD is running. That's what I named the container. Let me make this full screen. If I go into my stacks, so this is the old container stack that I used when I ran Plex full-time on this NAS. This Plex-PD, this is what I used to get the new container going. And the issue I had, the rabbit hole I had, I set this up, and of course, you know, the container name is here, and I was using my old compose image, and I set the new volume up for the public domain media, but I never added in the new location on the DS1520 for the new container. It was pointing to my old one, so every time I started it up, it wanted to be my old server, which was moved to my Unraid NUC, and it was just screwing the whole works up. So once I had this little correction, everything happened fine. So I will share this later on larger in a text document, and I'll add this to the description of this YouTube video when I post it, in case all this is helpful to Matt or anybody else watching. So the proof will be in the pudding. Let's monitor dashboard for the new server. And I've got the Plex HTPC client app pulled up. And I'm already in that new server, this DS1520 Plus. So I am going to, these are all public domain movies, but just in case, I'm going to use Big Buck Bunny because there definitely will not be a copyright strike showing that playing. So if I click into it, now one more thing to show, where am I? I get lost in my own train of thought sometimes. I have multiple versions of Big Buck Bunny. I have a 720p version, a 1080p version, a 4K version with AV1. I'm not going to be able to transcode this version successfully. But this is a 430-20p version encoded with H.264. That's the version I'm going to transcode. And I'll show you transcoding on the AV1 encoding too. Alright, so let's go to more. We'll play version. And at the top is the H.264 encoded version. And you see it starts up. And let's transcode this. We'll pick 4 megabits per second at 720p. And it took a second. Let me pause the video so you can hear me. You'll see that we have the HW symbol on the transcode. So we're transcoding from 4K down to 720p. And I have a lot of experience with Synology NASs and Plex. I started off with a DS1019 Plus, which it's still a Celeron CPU, but the iGPU is a UHD Graphics 500 iGPU, where Matt's 920 Plus and my 1520 Plus share the same CPU, a 9th gen Celeron that has the iGPU 600 unit in it, which is a little bit better. Alright, so this will not buffer, this will just keep playing. So let's change it back to original quality. And you'll see it's not really a high bit rate, 21 megabits per second, but it's 4K. Let's just show what happens when we switch to the AV1 version. Now this hardware will play this video directly all day long. And you'll see it's still only 22 megabits per second. But let's do the conversion. The same 4 megabit per second 720p conversion. And I'm going to try to talk over this because I want to show that it buffers. And it takes longer to start back up. You can see it's buffering and it's not going to be watchable. But that's because of the encoding of it, and none of us are using AV1 yet. We're all using HVEC or HEVC, H.265, H.264. Okay, so current version of Plex and hardware accelerated transcoding is good on this system. Let's bring in my text document now. So this is what I use in Portainer to start the container up. And it's basically exactly the same as what I had been using. It's exactly what my test server on my older DS1019 uses. The only thing I didn't include is the PLEX CLAIM number. And of course I don't want to show that to the world. So that would be here, and this is missing that. So I'll leave this on the screen for a second. It's just down at the bottom. It's the second to last thing. All right, so we are using the Linux server image. My container name is Plex PD. Host name is Plex. Network mode is host, mem limit 4G, CPU shares 1024. I don't know what any of this means. I really don't know what the health check is supposed to do. I stole all this from Marius Hosting, from his setup for Plex, and it's always worked well for me. Of course, the volume, the configuration for the container has to point to the Plex folder inside the Docker folder on volume 1. And again, this is where my earlier screw up happened and I went down a rabbit hole. I was pointing to my old Plex install that's still on the NAS. We showed that. So my Synology NAS, my Docker folder, And here is my old Plex server before I moved it to Unraid. And I've since renamed it so I can't make that same mistake. If I had renamed it to start with, instead of it just being named Plex, the original container wouldn't have never spun up. It would have given me an error, and I would have found this issue much sooner. So of course I'm pointing to volume 1 to this network shared folder, and the alias I'm using is just Plex Media, and I'll show that in a second. We'll add a TV show library to this brand new server. All right, let me pause for a second. Thank you. I had to get rid of a cough. So this is what Matt's going to be looking for, this info here. There's 2 lines to enable hardware acceleration. And let me get that larger. I'll just leave that on the screen, and of course you can pause the video. And again, this will be in the description of the video. I'll throw this Docker Compose image right in the description. So hopefully, Matt, that will do you. I'm trying to think if I've left anything out. Sorry this video was so late, but the saying that I heard someplace and that I love is that every day is a new school day with Plex. And I thought this was going to be easy to put together and show you, and I went down my own rabbit hole because I thought I knew more than I did. I was working off from memory with things, and if I had just checked a guide like Marius Hosting's guide, I would have spotted that I didn't set this up. My copy and paste failed. So let me know if this gets you going, but these should be the device driver lines you need in your container. I think you're using Linux server, but you can basically copy and paste all of this and just set up your own volume information here. And everything I've done with both my NASs, the PUID and the PGID, have always been 1026 and 100. Marius Hosting has a nice little scheduled task that you can set up to run on your NAS to get this information. Otherwise, you have to learn more about your NAS and SSH in to get this. And to be honest with you, I just know enough to be dangerous with Plex. I'm not a full-blown IT specialist. I love my Synology NAS. I love Unraid to host Docker containers. But I really don't know how to do everything besides to get Plex going and to get Plex going successfully. So let me know if this gets you going with your hardware accelerated transcoding, because mine never broke with the update. Thanks for watching.